comes Milo, big run out of 4. He's going to be there.
Tristan Martin's there. Cannot count out to 37.
Oh!
Milo gets burned!
Cabot, where did he come from?
Here
comes Slack.
A punch from the 33.
It's a drag race.
The Magic Man wins it Auto Club.
And here comes Milo, big run out of 4. He's going to be there.
Tristan Martin's there. Cannot count out to 37.
Oh!
Milo gets burned!
Cabot, where did he come from?
Here
comes Slack.
A punch from the 33.
It's a drag race.
The Magic Man wins it Auto Club.
CT Truck Series gonna make right-hand turns here tonight. Circuit of the Americas here in Texas. 20 corners here tonight. The longest track that we're gonna race this season. 3.42 miles for 20 turns, 28 laps, and 100 miles. You're watching Southeast Tutoring Truck Series, VSRL. Tonight's race sponsor, the John and Deb 100. The biggest fans of Sean Langton out there. Watching live here on VSPEED. I'm your host, Bradley Cooper. Tonight as we get ready to set it up, sure enough, you have the number 8. Sean Langton starting on the pole here tonight. Join the grid here on the track. It's Ross Phillips starting next to him. In the second row, we've got Morgan Cook and Kyle Stewart. Row number 3, Justin Ritchie with Garrett Helmlinger. Nick Gardner and Nicholas Pressey. 7th and 8th position. 9th, Dakota Floyd and Richard Holland rounding out the top 10. Kai Shappert in 11th with Todd Cleveland in 12th. 13th, Dylan Disbro with Britt McKee in 14th. 15th position, Rick Fagone and Brian Henning, 16th. 17th spot, Trent Collins with Kobe Collins in 18th. 19th, and Frank Zingen, and rounding out the top 20 is Jacob Daniels. A lot of cars out here tonight on this big track. Thad Miller, 21st. John Sanu, 22nd. 23rd, John Buell with 24th. Cole Jarrett. 25th, Randy Saleh. Justin Mullins, 26th. 27th, Jimmy Sox. Teresa Spiker, 28th. 29th position is Riley Laverne, Stephen Aguirre, in 30th. And rounding out the rest of your field, Mark Math and Shane Gunter in 31st and 32nd. Safety lights are off on the pace car. And we're going to bring you flag-to-flag coverage. Full course cautions are off here tonight. And that pace car makes that tight left-hand turn for the very narrow pit road. Sean Langton's going to lead them into turn 1. Very complicated and complex racetrack to get around. A lot of technical parts of this place to do, but here we go. Green flag is out, and we're underway. The Circuit of America's John and Deb 100. look at the spread on this racetrack here tonight. Incredible view here through the S's as we go to turn 10, coming down the hill. So many trucks out on this racetrack into the hairpin now, coming up on turn number 12. And I haven't seen a single truck go off track yet. We got a little passing here with Rick Fagone side by side. This is back here, actually trying to get onto the proper TV camera. This is for the 14th position, going around Brian Hennings. And if you're not familiar with this racetrack, if you've never been here before, it's 20 corners to get around this place. We're just past the halfway around one lap. Coming up on turn 15 here. The 5 of Phillips keeping pace pretty well with the 8 of Langton. Morgan Cook, Kyle Stewart, Garrett Helmlinger, the top 5. Let's bring the ticker up here. Such a different format from what we're used to running here on VSPEED. We usually let them have a hot lap around this place. But into the final 2 turns, Sean Langton and Ross Phillips coming off the final corners. Down the front straightaway. There's the track map right there. It's a massive racetrack to get around. But to lead lap number 1, it's going to be the 8 of Langton. As he goes across the line, Phillips holding pace, and they have pulled out 3 seconds over the 51 of Morgan Cook. And the spread across this racetrack as we try to keep up with everything that's going on out here in the action. It's looking like Colt Jarrett here was just side by side with John Buell, who gets around him. There's actually a truck in between them. That's the 62. Frank Zingen. Riley Laverne in the 19. Very hot pink paint scheme on that with the flames. The breast cancer awareness truck. Currently running in the 22nd position. Started 29th in a truck off the racetrack. That is Frank Zingen. He goes off wide. Let's go back and take an instant replay and find out what happens here to Zingen. Looks like he hits the rumble strips there, gets a little out of shape. That's actually not the cause of that. So here we go into the next portion, just back on the throttle. A little too heavy, upsets the truck. But no damage there for the 62. Now finding himself in the 24th position. Side by side there for a moment, that was Todd Cleveland. A little bit of racing going on here. 29 of McGee must have went off racetrack. There's the 18 of Richard Holland just behind him. But this field has spread out massively. And a little bit of contact there between Holland and Hennings. And to show you how difficult this place is to get around, the flat corners, the long sweeping corners that connect to one another, you're off throttle more than you're on throttle at this place. It is very technical. And as we ride on board here with the number 18 of Holland, listen to how much you have to shift, how many times you're on and off the gas. This is probably the fastest portion of this racetrack, down this front stretch. Checking back in with your leader, Langton, now pulling away about a second from the 5 of Phillips. They are 5 seconds ahead of the 51 of Cook and the 41 of Stewart, orange speed. It's the top 5, all orange speed here. Garrett Helmlinger in the 77, running the 77 Vantage machine here tonight. And quick off the throttle yet again. A little bit of... I actually have to say that I've watched the 77 drive this track with a mouse and keyboard. So if he can do that, he should have no problem with a wheel in his hands. Somebody is definitely not having a problem thus far, though. The 8 of Langton, he's led all 3 laps pretty much as we complete the 3rd lap down this long straightaway. Another fast portion of this racetrack. Phillips has not let him out of sight, though. He's hung with him, done a fantastic job. We heard all week during the off week, the off days, that the 8 of Langton was going to be tough to beat at this racetrack. It's one of his favorite places to go. We even heard it in some of the post-race interviews when we talked about going to COTA, that the 8 was going to be the great. And so the 5 of Phillips puts down the practice time, and he's been able to hang right with him since the beginning of this race. 3rd position, Morgan Cook. He started 3rd. He's hung right there. He starts to pull away a little bit from the 41 of Kyle Stewart back here in the 4th position. So the top 5 is Langton, Phillips, Cook, Stewart, and Helmlinger. Have to go back to the 6th position. That's even the top 6 is all orange speed. They're dominating here at COTA tonight. Nick Gardner, one of the fastest drivers outside of orange speed. He's in the 7th position. He has not moved positions as well. Fastest mover of the race so far, the 199 of Mark Math. He is up from 31st to 16th here tonight. Up 15 spots from where he began this race. The struggles going on the racetrack for some of these drivers. A 9 of Benjamin Richards, who's blinking, actually having some connection issues here tonight. VRX Simulations back in 32nd position. Didn't qualify well. He is up 1 spot from where he began this race, but these guys very, very off the pace here tonight. And a lot of invalid lap times from about 18th on back. You have the 13th. Oh, a truck off the track. That's John Buell. We just checking in there with Thad Miller, who is yet to put down a valid lap time. And timing and scoring showing the 47 of Buell going off track here. Let's take a replay and find out what happened to him. It's actually a little bit further back here. So side by side here with the 13 of Thad Miller. They're going to go through this next corner. And the 47 maybe gets into the side. I'm not sure entirely what happens here. Let's back it up a little bit more. It just snaps free on the throttle. Truck gets upset. Unfortunate there. That's how fast things can happen. Here at COTA, this truck looks very tough to handle. Less than half a second, though, separating your leaders. It has been a high-pressure day here for the 8 of Langton, trying to hold it together. Phillips has been on the tail for 90% of this run. Oh, and a little early on the throttle there, trying to get it to work. Doesn't get it to stick. You can progressively hear how long it takes for this truck to get up to speed. Down the front stretch again. The 8 of Langton's going to lead another lap. That'll put him at 4 this time by. 28 laps scheduled here for this race, 100 miles. Unusual to think in the typical schedule that we have here for this league. These guys, no contact between the 55 and the 77. He's still trying to get it going back, and it backs into the 16 of Nick Gardner, and Gardner now off the track with some heavy right side damage. Let's go back and find out what happened to the 55 of Richie. Richie locks it up and gets sideways in the front of Garrett Helmlinger, still trying to get it going, and utter chaos there. Nick Gardner probably not very happy there because he gets hit by Nicholas Pressey in the 94. So let's ride on board here with the 16 and find out exactly how that all went down. He sees the 55, he sees the 77, he locks up the front tires. Gets contact there, and then the 94 Pressey comes all the way across the track and hits him off into the grass. So an unfortunate series of events as the sun starts to come out. Not going to help the grip at this racetrack as it's already greasy enough, as you can tell. But Gardner falls back to the 10th position. The 55 of Richie falls back to 9th. And Richie better hope that the 16 doesn't catch up to him because he's probably not a happy camper there. It's a kind of an instinctive, kind of something you go right to when you start to go sideways. You try to save it. When that doesn't work, you try to control it to get it out of the way, and then you watch all those positions get lost, and Richie, watching these cars go by, knows how hard it is to pass, how much time he's losing, tries to get it back going straight, backs into the 16. The 16 gets hit by the 64, or the 94 rather. So unfortunate, but you know, it's kind of that domino effect of one decision leading to another and making the situation worse and worse. Back here in the 5th spot after the spin, Garrett Helmlinger takes over 5th position. He picks up 1 spot. Dakota Floyd in the 24. Beltway Coffee Chevrolet Silverado is up to 6th now. Six laps into our 28-lap race. Full course cautions again being turned off, so none of these drivers will have an opportunity, and that also can be factored in to why the 55 felt like he had to get going again, because there's no opportunity to bunch this field back up. No stage break, and these guys know that situationally, if you lose them, you've lost them the whole time. It's going to be really tough for these guys to get back to where they were. They have the laps to do it, plenty of mileage left to go, as we're only about not even a quarter of a way through this thing. It's still one of those situations. And another situation here. Langton has not pulled away from Phillips. He's been hovering this entire run. 6 laps into this race now. And the 5 of Ross Phillips is less than half a second away to this very moment. Langton keeping it calm and cool, though. Hasn't made any mistakes. He's been able to maintain that gap, and these two have been picture perfect here at COTA. Little slip sliding around, but they know where to cut the racetracks. About 1/10 of a second separating them that last time by. 2 minutes 21 and almost flat. 900ths over that. Moving on back here, about 6.5 seconds back from Ross Phillips is Morgan Cook, who's also been driving this place pretty picture perfect. I'm not entirely sure on this circuit. I just recently purchased this track. Not a big road guy. So for any of you out there in the chat that have seen races, participated in races at this racetrack, kudos to you. I don't know if I'd have the patience to sit down and practice this place for that many laps just to be able to memorize 20 corners. I mean, comparatively, I'm not sure on too many tracks. Suzuka could be one of those tracks I could probably compare it to as far as the S's go, as we see them coming through the rhythm sections of this track. But it's just a really complicated racetrack to figure out. Benjamin Richards going off track here, letting the leaders go by. So getting the blue and yellow flag that alerts the cars that are on the verge of going a lap down that there are faster cars overtaking them. Trying to get locked back in here. So we are having some connection issues with some of the drivers here tonight. iRacing not quite wanting to keep all the cars. This track's so big that iRacing is selecting a handful of cars to take out. So I'm having a tough time keeping track of all the timing and scoring for all of these drivers. And that is irregardless of iRacing. I have it set up to see over 40 cars, so that's kind of the product of this track being so large. But after completing 6 laps, it's Langton leading all 6 of those. He is still half a second ahead, and let's check in here. Some of these guys look like they're having some handling issues, a little wide on that exit there for the 41. And I'm not exactly sure on the fuel window, being that this track is 3.5 miles long. I would assume that they will have to pit one time. I'm not entirely sure on that. But I'm willing to guess that there will be one pit stop here tonight, as big as this place is. And a little wide there on that entry. That gave the 5 of Phillips a big advantage into turn 1. Coming down into turn 2, though, gives it all back. He cuts that edge a little short. And into the S's. Langton has not made a mistake yet. Let's ride on board here with the number 8. And again, showing you how tough it is to get around this place, how off the throttle you have to be. And then also the pressure of the 5 being on your bumper in case you do make a mistake at any time. It's one thing to practice, it's another to come into a race situation where you've got constant pressure breathing down that back spoiler. You have to hit your marks perfect. Trying to keep up with some battles. We got Mark Math coming out of what seems to be the second turn here. Yes, into the S's now. He's got a few trucks in front of him there. That's the 15 of Kobe Collins, who's racing pretty hard there with the 74 of, no, actually the 19 of Laverne. So Laverne having a pretty stellar day inside the top 20 for where he began this race. He's up 13 spots from his 29th position starting. So maybe a mistake in qualifying, because it seems like he's getting around here pretty well under race conditions. 72 of Jacob Daniels. He's up 5 positions where he began the race in 20th. Currently in 15th position. Having a good one as well. But the spread on this field, the gap. Never thought I would say this, but we have a 53-second gap from 15th place to first place Sean Langton. Entirety spread on the field. The furthest car back on the lead lap is John Buell, who had that off track there. He's back at 29th position now. He is 2 minutes and 9 seconds back. Taking 2 minutes 22 seconds to get around for Sean Langton, who was about 0.3 of a second faster than Ross Phillips last time by. Starting to stretch this lead out a little bit now to a full second. Morgan Cook has maintained with Ross Phillips at about 7.5. On board here with the 51 of Cook. So some of the Orange Speed guys got shuffled out there. Justin Ritchie falls back to 9th position. The 16 of Gardner still inside the top 10, but down 3 spots from where he began this race. Todd Cleveland up 4 positions, up to 8th now for the 44, but he has Justin Ritchie all over the back bumper. Ritchie having 3 spots rather that he would have to pass to get back to his position in 6th. And he gets around the 44 of Todd Cleveland with a pretty impressive pass there. The transition of the weight on the 55. Looked like that thing almost left the ground there for a second. Truck off the track. That's the 6 of Mullins. Mullins gets it back straight. Thankfully goes off in a paved portion of the track. Doesn't lose control. He is in the 30th position right now. 1 lap down though. Some other guys that are struggling here tonight. Thad Miller started back in 23rd. He is up 2 positions, or down 2 positions rather. Started in 21st. GNC 13 trying to get it back rolling. I know that they've had some tough drives. Thad's been good at certain tracks, so really good at 1.5-mile tracks. Probably looking for the first flight out of this place for some of these drivers. And I can't say that I blame them. Personally, for me, I'm an oval guy, like I said. But this guy right here, he says, we don't have enough laps. We need more. 28's not enough to prove I'm the alpha. On road courses, the 8 of Langton. Gonna lead another lap this time by. 9 laps led, and he's been flawless thus far. So coming through the carousel, that's the 8 of Langton right there. And we can go drone through the S's for some of these drivers. Here's Todd Cleveland in 9th. So all the different camera angles that we have at this racetrack. These are my personal favorites. But the spread on this racetrack is so big, 20 corners. Trying to keep up with the position of what part of the track you're on sometimes gets a little bit of a daunting task. So trying to get the chat to come back up because I know that a lot of you fans are out there watching here tonight. John and Deb Langton out there in the chat. I see you. Showing your driver right now up on the screen. And it's been a good one so far. Been able to complete 10 laps, coming up on the halfway point. Ross Phillips trying to hang strong. With that slight little mistake there, he fell back. Another slight little mistake on the exit of the final corner and down the long front straightaway to cross the line. 10 laps led now for the 8 of Langton. Phillips trying to get it done, but just a little overdrive here and there, and he's given up more time to the 8. The spread now 5 seconds back to Morgan Cook. The 51 is making up ground on the 5 of Phillips. Kyle Stewart a little bit further back. Coming through some lap traffic. Closest battle on the racetrack is Todd Cleveland and Nicholas Pressey going side by side down the front stretch now. Cleveland thinking about poking the nose in there. He thinks better of it that time around. Out of turn 1, now into turn 2. I hope you're enjoying tonight's broadcast here live on VSPEED. We're going to take a quick commercial break. The number 8 of Sean Langton has led the entirety of this race thus far, but we're just about halfway. We'll be back right after this.
And here comes Milo. Big run out of 4. He's going to be there.
Tristan Marty's there. Cannot count out to 37.
Oh!
The round gets burned!
Cabot, where did he come from?
Here
comes Dweck.
A punch from the 33.
It's a drag race.
The Magic Man wins it Auto Club.
Back here live, the John and Deb 100 here at Circuit of the Americas. VSPEED still live, and we're going through your field, your top 10. It's Sean Langton, Ross Phillips, the top 2, very close together. Back down to less than a second separating these two, and that's been the case here for most of this race. You've got the 51 of Morgan Cook, the 41 of Kyle Stewart, the top 5, top 6 even now, all back to orange speed with Garrett Helmlinger and Justin Ritchie. Dakota Floyd, the first truck outside of that, in the 24 in 7th position, side by side here for a lap truck in the 22. Todd Cleveland in 8th, Nick Gardner back up to 9th, and Nicholas Pressey in the 10th spot now. The 12 laps complete. And we're almost exactly at that halfway point. This gives us quite a few opportunities to talk about some of these different drivers and the seasons that they've been having. Ross Phillips has been one of the dominant drivers this season, putting together some great performances. You saw it a lot last year, but here tonight, just not able to get ahead of the 8 of Langton. Still plenty of time to do it, but Phillips this season has been stellar. And might I also add, in the McConey's points battle for the truck series. Oh, a little contact there with a lap truck. Langton gets into him. And that truck actually going off the track there. That was a 9 of Benjamin Richards. Langton loses a little bit of time here. Now down to 0.3 of a second. 00 getting out of the way. Not to interfere, but damage almost already done here for the 8 of Langton as this battle starts to heat up for the lead. So trying to find exactly where these guys are on. We got a car off the track there, but trying to figure out exactly where Langton and Phillips are respectively on the racetrack as I get my corners mixed up a little bit. That's a 70 of Teresa Spiker letting the leaders go by. And I want to say they're in turn 15, so yeah, I guess correctly. But a little bit of a technical portion of this circuit. Now here come the 8 and the 5 of Phillips right about now, so a little bit of a gap here between cameras. But into turn 19, the final 2 corners, and then it's back down the front stretch. So now that we got our timing back up, Phillips knows that this is probably the best opportunity he's going to have to pass Langton, and still not able to get the run off the final corner. And he will maintain his second place position as of right now. Pretty quiet out there on the racetrack. We've got the 10 of Rick Fagone, who's all over the back bumper of Britt McGee. This is for the 14th position. Looking back now from the 29 of McGee, who is getting past now to the inside for the 10 of Fagone. He's going to get that position. A little contact. And the 29 hits him. And Rick Fagone not going to be happy with that. So the contact there out of that corner, can't say it was particularly anyone's fault, but we're going to go back and watch. There's the mistake there by the 29, and that allowed Fagone to get to the inside right here with a little lockup. And it looked like the 29 just trying to get back on the throttle here on the exit. Gets into Fagone. I'll have to go back and watch that from maybe a different angle here. Yeah, the 29 loses control, gets a little sideways, gets into the 10. But let's go back on our live shot and see if the 10 back racing with the 29. He does get clear of him this time around. Now for going up to 12th. Some other close battles. We've got the 55 of Richie side by side here with Dakota Floyd. That is for the 6th spot. Floyd goes by on the right-hand side. Todd Cleveland also has the door open down this long straightaway. So Richie may be making a mistake. He falls out of the top 6 for a moment here. Floyd trying to get by, not the portion of the racetrack that they want to pass, because now there's a crossover for the 55 and the 24 goes out wide. This is the portion where Fagone and McKee got together. Floyd doing everything he can to try to get around this 55, just not able to complete the pass. Another close driving just behind them is this 44 and the 16. That's Todd Cleveland and Nick Gardner. Gardner, who got, I guess, hit, dumped, whatever you want to call it, off the racetrack. And they're coming down pit road now. So pit stops at lap 15. A lot of trucks coming down for service. We've got the 55 of Richie, the 24 of Floyd, Gardner in as well. On back, you have the 74 of Hennings. And look how tight this pit road is. Not a lot of room for error here on pit road. Down and away for the 77 of Garrett Helmlinger. He's back out on the racetrack. He's going to come back out in the 5th spot. So imagine how big this racetrack is, and then put into the fact that these guys hit pit road and didn't lose any positions. That's how big this track is. John Langton and Ross Phillips on the entire other side of this racetrack. They are 26 seconds almost ahead of the 41 of Kyle Stewart. The massive expanse here out in Texas. You see that big sky over top of this racetrack, 3.5 miles. As our drone footage shows you, this place bigger than any complex that we go to on the schedule. It's Still not pitting yet for the 8 and the 5 of Phillips. I guess they did come down pit road during that commercial break. They must have missed it. No, they came down a lap ago, so 4 tires and fuel for the 8 and the 5, but they did it so flawlessly. And like I said, these guys not losing any positions. That did give the opportunity to Morgan Cook catches up to them. He's on and off pit road a little bit faster than these guys. Scratch that, he has actually not hit pit road yet, so the 51 still on the same stint. Not exactly sure because my timing and scoring doesn't show anything in the box there, unless he tried to come down pit road and missed it. So the 51 catches up to these boys, but he has not hit pit road yet. And that could be a product of iRacing doing its thing, where a lot of these drivers are blinking out, just not counting. My timing screen could be completely wonked here tonight. There's the 10 of Fagone coming down pit road from the 12th position. And there's a good shot of the flagman as we try to get a better angle here of pit lane. Left side's going to go up here on the 10. And now down and away here for Fagone. Car just behind him, that's Kai Shappert in the 14th position. The number 43 comes to his stall. Going to get right side tires now. Left side's going to go up after that. And actually, looking like maybe a fuel-only stop here. I'm not seeing any tires go up and down on the 43. So he does take fuel only and gets back out there. Loses about 3 positions. Not entirely sure. The 43 is really not going to save much time. We're only talking about a couple seconds for the 43. But off the final 2 corners, still a really close race. And now having to deal with some lap traffic as he has the 13 of Thad Miller in front of him. On board here with the 8 of Langton. Diving down to the inside, all the way to the bottom. Going to cut this a little bit short. Gets by the 13 of Miller. Now goes to work to try to get around the 86 of John Sanu. And there is the 86 car of Sanu running in the 23rd position at threat of being a lap down now. Trying to chase down the 15 of Kobe Collins. Trent Collins in front of him. These boys starting in the 17th and 18th position. Still running 1 and 2 to each other, but have both lost 4 positions since this race began. There's Collins back there, and then just behind them, John Sanu, who's still a threat of going a lap down. So again, I'm not entirely sure. I feel like these drivers would have hit pit road because the stint is counting 2 laps. And it shows that they were in pit lane at some point here. I would like to think that the timing and scoring is just not showing their box timer. So we're going to go with the 41 and the 51 have pitted. And they just did such a phenomenal job that they gained all this ground. The 51 of Cook now in the hunt here as 86 of Sanu gets out of the way for the leaders. And almost a 3-way battle for the lead. Starting to heat up a little bit more each lap. 0.3 of a second now. The 8 of Langton has held on to every single lap so far. As we approach less than 10 to go. Gonna lead another one this time by the 8 of Langton coming up on the 15 of Collins. Close racing still going on here with the 16 of Nick Gardner, the 44 of Todd Cleveland has a very hungry Nick Gardner and almost some contact there through that portion of the racetrack. And Cleveland trying to chase down the 24 Floyd. Riding on board with the back of the 24. A little bit of a defensive line as they come into the final corner. Almost opening up the door for Nick Gardner. I'll tell you what, Morgan Cook, phenomenal day here for the 51 truck. He's all over the back bumper of Ross Phillips. Top three having less than a second separating them. Langton going by the lap truck. The 4 of Trenton Collins. And all 3 of these trucks able to navigate around him. Pretty stellar day for all 3 of these guys. Kyle Stewart in the 4th position right now. 27.6 seconds back. That is an eternity. No offense, this is 4th position. This is a great day for Kyle Stewart, but it just blows my mind how far back these guys can be. And, you know, to add it up, it's still not even a quarter of the racetrack. You subtract that lead, that's still 2 minutes to go around this place. But for these top 3, and 10 laps to go, I'm very interested to see if anybody has anything for Sean Langton. They've been in his wake, casting a shadow on that 8 since lap 1. Now adding another truck to the mix with Morgan Cook jumping into this picture. If any one of these guys make a mistake, the other one's going to be right there to capitalize. And you know, for the Orange Speed team, if one of them makes a mistake, you know the other one is there to pounce, but they're also going to kind of feel that, I guess, remorse that they passed a teammate after having an accident. We got a truck getting loose in front of the leaders here. That's the 0-1. He's going to pull it off the racetrack of Jimmy Socks. And he's going to let some of these drivers go by. It looks like he's parked here. Currently in the 28th position, watching these guys go around. So he's actually going to tow it to pit road. And I believe that's going to do it for the 0-1 tonight. And Morgan Cook maybe with a little bit of a mistake as he loses about a second on these guys. Let's take a look back and see if we can find out what happened to the 51. Not quite finding it there. He's pretty close at this point, but let's see where he makes a mistake to lose that ground. I'm just not exactly sure if he just gets a little loose on all 3 of those exits, or it doesn't look like he makes a giant mistake. Just doesn't quite get the drive off that the driver, Phillips and Langton do. And so they pull away. Maybe a sign that the tires are starting to wear out here for the 51 of Cook. So it's grown to almost 3.5 second lead over the 51. Garrett Helmlinger back here in 5th position. I'd like to shout out, this is one of the league admins. Garrett Helmlinger, the founder of VSRL, and then SET, Morgan Cook, Southeast Tutoring, stepping up to the plate with Thad Miller. So behind the scenes for all those guys that you would like to shout out that do a lot of handiwork. The guys that are usually up in the control tower. 77 of Helmlinger. So trying to find a battle going on this racetrack here tonight. There's Nicholas Pressey. He's separated by about 0.8 of a second back from Todd Cleveland. These two would be about the closest battle on the racetrack. You have Ross Phillips, who's been trying to chase Sean Langton for the entirety of this race, but with 8 laps to go, unless Langton makes a huge mistake, he has stretched this lead out to almost a full second. Now is a full second. It's looking like the 8 of Langton's going to lead this whole race, unless there's a huge mistake, and I just don't see it here for the 8 tonight. And Pressey, look at Pressey touching the rumble strips, getting some air through there. Let's go back and get an instant replay of what that 94 was doing. That's a little hang time. It's one way to cool the tires down, I think. Not sure how effective it will be, but that's one way to save them. Can't be using tires if they aren't touching the ground. Nick Gardner, Dakota Floyd very close, 0.3 of a second separating 7th and 8th position. And as they go into the final 2 or 3 corners, looks like Gardner was going to peek to the inside there for a moment, doesn't get the run off. Now going to take it a little bit wider on the entry. Able to get underneath the 24 here, and they're side by side. Not quite able to do it that time. And that's kind of unfortunate about the layout of this racetrack, but you can get a run on the inside if you don't complete the pass in that corner. There's almost always an opposite corner that you'll be stuck on the outside and lose all that ground. So you have to plan those passes accordingly. Try to set the drivers up on the entrance of a double. But into the final 2 corners, down this long front straightaway, Gardner still in the 8th position. Gonna try it again. Floyd goes deep to the inside. There's the 9. Pulling it out of the way for these guys to go on by. Benjamin Richards doing a great job trying to stay out of the way. Knows he's a little off the pace here tonight, but doing a fantastic job of not causing any havoc here on the racetrack. Ross Phillips falls back another couple tenths since we've last talked about this lead. And Sean Langton just putting on a clinic here tonight for Circuit of the Americas. And he better. I tell you, John Debb, he raced one hell of a road racer. He's doing a phenomenal job out here tonight. Morgan Cook falls back about 4.5 seconds now. Still a stellar day here for the 51. In 3rd position. '41 of Kyle Stewart, 35.5 seconds separate him and your leader Sean Langton. About 31.5 if you go from Morgan Cook in 3rd place. So not a lot of hope here for the 41 to gain any positions, but there is the lurking 77 that's back here, about 8 seconds back from the 4th place driver. And it means there is an opportunity, if the 41 makes a mistake, to lose ground. So going up, a lot tougher, but gravity, it's right there to catch you if you make a mistake. Mistake-free race so far for Langton as we wind down the laps. Coming up on about 5 to go. Checking in with some of these drivers that are out there on the racetrack having stellar days. If you want to learn this place, I would compare it to Nürburgring, where there's just so many different corners to learn. Nuremberg, a lot bigger than this racetrack, but it's really the only thing I have to go off of when it comes to how many different varieties of corners that you can cram into a 3-4 mile racetrack. Nuremberg being over, I believe, 15 miles. Just so many different varieties of driving, and God help me if VSRL ever decides to go to Nürburgring. I don't believe I would even know what to do with my cameras at that point. So here we go for the second to last two corners. Langton opens it up another 10th this lap. Last time by, he ran a 2-minute 22.237. And Phillips struggling a little bit on the exit of that corner, actually falling back a little bit each lap to Morgan Cook. In unison, though, these Orange Speed guys putting on a great show for the top six. Richie able to get back into the top six. A phenomenal job there for the 55. The one mistake he made here tonight, but he's got the 16 of Nick Gardner trying to catch up to him. Gardner about 10 seconds back. If the 55 were to make a big mistake, it is possible, but 10 seconds, that's going to be tough to overcome. 24 of Dakota Floyd in 8th, your top 10, Todd Cleveland, Nicholas Pressey. Then just outside the top 10, you have the 74 of Brian Hennings in 11th. Started in 16th, he's up 5 spots from where he began. And a great day here for the 74. We've had a post-race interview here with the 74 of Hennings. And, you know, he talked about how he wasn't looking forward to this place, hadn't put a lot of time down. Looks like he's got it pretty figured out, though. He's within a few seconds of the leaders as far as lap time goes. And that means that he's good enough to get around this place and good enough to maintain that top 15. The driver we talked about started in 12th, up 2 spots, or actually started in 10th. I don't know why I'm reading that backwards here tonight, but started in 10th, down 2 positions. That's Richard Holland in the number 18. And he is currently being scored in 12th position. So a little bit of an off day here for the 18. You know that Phillips and Langton are capitalizing on these road courses, knowing that they're good at them. Could be a good points day for this top 6 to try to get ahead. The number 18 of Richard Holland with a win this season as well. So like to bring up the point or the scheduled graphic here where these drivers will be going. You've got Circuit of the Americas, and then next week it's going to be Atlanta Motor Speedway, Myrtle Beach Speedway after that, then Bristol. So Bristol Dirt, the only dirt track on our schedule. And we're going to go road racing also at Daytona, so that'll be the next road course on the schedule as we have 5 laps to go here. Sean Langton, Ross Phillips, Morgan Cook. Top 3 has not changed. Biggest mover of the race, that's the number 19 of Riley Laverne. Started 29th. He's in the 14th position. There's a very hungry Kai Shafford behind him, though, as they go into the hairpin. Britt McGee, the last car on the lead lap in 16th spot. He is at threat of going a lap down, as you see out the corner of your screen there. The 8 of Langton coming up over the crest of that hill. 4.4 seconds ahead of Ross Phillips. And that lead just continues to grow as they come into the final 2 corners here. Britt McGee just trying to stay on the lead lap. Will he be able to hold on to it? I don't know. Looks like he's struggling a little bit. He gets out of the way, rather. So, kudos to the 29. Here's Kai Shappert going back at Laverne for a second there. Didn't quite get the nose, and that pass isn't completed. Quietly, though, in 13th. And I could probably guess what's being said on the radio right now in that Discord. I just want it to be over. Rick Fagone running in 13th position, just trying to seal the deal and mitigate the damage. I know some of these drivers dread coming to road courses. And knowing the 10 of Fagone personally, the 18 of Richard Holland personally, these guys definitely not fans of turning right too often. So 4 laps to go. Langton just has to do it, and I say 4 more times, but that means that he has, well, 200 opportunities to mess it up, I think, would be the correct math. For 20 corners, at 4 to go, we're going to say, yeah, that's a lot of chances to mess it up. 4 times, it's 80 opportunities, rather. That's a lot to have a chance to make a mistake here tonight. And the whole aspect of 28 laps, he's been pretty flawless for 24 of them. Fagone off the track here, loses a couple spots to Kai Shappert, and Riley Laverne in the closing laps of this race has to get back up there and try to get it back. Now he's at a threat of going a lap down. He does go a lap down. Sean Langton makes quick work and takes 3 spots there in 2 corners to put them a lap down. Now the last car on the lead lap is the 18 of Richard Holland. Holland a little bit further ahead of this group. So still a chance that he'll stay on the lead lap, but if Langton has anything to say about it, he's going to try to chase him down. Put as much ground as he can between him and Phillips. On the track, looking for some close battles. Closest cars on this racetrack right now are Kai Shappert and Riley Laverne. Nick Gardner up to the 7th position, trying to chase down the 55 of Justin Ritchie, and he's about 8 seconds back from that position as Ritchie goes around the 13 of Thad Miller. You can see maybe just here on the edge. Nope, you're not going to see it, but we take it to TV1 and look back here. They're relatively, as far as this track goes, pretty close. And with 3 laps remaining, that's plenty of time for the 16 to try to chase down and get to the 6th position driver of Justin Ritchie. So Sean Langton kind of going stagnant here. He's maintaining a 4-second gap as he navigated a couple lap trucks. That lead has stopped growing a little bit, but Langton really doesn't have any reason to push the truck harder than it needs to be. He's got the gap. He's got the lead. He's led all 25 laps here tonight. And just a phenomenal day for Sean Langton. I'll probably get tired of saying it, but Ross Phillips in a close second place battle there for the majority of this race. Unfortunately falls back here in the closing laps, and he's fallen back to within 3 seconds of Morgan Cook in the 51, so we could have a battle for second position before this race is over with. Dakota Floyd now catching up to the 16 of Nick Gardner. Might be able to snag away the 7th position with 3 laps to go. Quietly working his way up. He's stayed in the top 10 since this race began, but the 24 of Floyd still has a little bit of work to do if he's going to shave down those 7/10 of a second. Oh, and loses a little bit of ground. You can see the 16 of Gardner going by Thad, or the 15 rather, of Kobe Collins. Trying to put as much ground between him and that 24 as he can. Side by side with Laverne again. Laverne trying to get his lap back the old-fashioned way. That's not the leader. That was Ross Phillips, but they were side by side there for a moment. Phillips really turning up the heat here. 2 laps to go for Langton. Phillips has the lead down to 2.5. Now down to 2 seconds as the 8 of Langton passes the 70 of Teresa Spiker. And a little close call there. Spiker has to get out of the way, drops over the rumble strips, lets these drivers by. Spiker sticking it out here, 4 laps down in the 26th position. I know this is out of her comfort zone, but able to stick it out and kept that truck relatively clean and damage-free. What a learning curve here tonight for Circuit of the Americas. Coming up on 1 to go. Langton coming through the final couple corners. Has this long sweeping hairpin and now into the final 2. Doesn't look like Phillips is gonna, unless there's a huge mistake. Phillips has got it down to 2 seconds. But I'd have to say that Langton's got this thing wrapped up as he comes across the line. White flag up in the air. The 8 of Langton just has to get around this track one more time. 3.42 miles. Stand between the 8 and his first win of the season here for Southeast Tutoring Truck Series. Ross Phillips trying to take that away. 1.7 seconds separate them. And looking back from the back bumper of Phillips, that lead shrinks a little bit more through the S's now. Trying to chase him down as the 01 gets out of the way. Now down to 9/10 of a second. Pushing very hard here for the 5 of Phillips. Has to be careful not to overdrive it, but can he chase him down? He's got plenty of time. He just has to focus. That time not so good. Doesn't have a good exit, and Langton pulls away. Now down into this portion of the racetrack. Able to shrink down a little bit, but not a good exit there for the 5 of Langton. Or the 5 of Phillips, and Langton now pulling away again. 1.5 seconds. So Phillips overdrives it a little bit and down this long straightaway. Doesn't get the speed set up. You watch that lead grow a little bit more. Now here in the final few, this is past the halfway point. About 1.5 miles left to go. Sean Langton through the hairpin. Into the final 4 corners. There's the 10 of Fagone, the 01. Turn 19 and 20, the final 2 corners. And off the final corner, here comes the 18, or the number 8, rather, on TV1. As we fix it correctly down the front stretch, your winner here tonight at Circuit of the Americas, the John and Deb 100. It's Sean Langton getting it done by over 2 seconds to come across the line. Orange Speed in victory lane. Orange Speed, the entire top 6 here tonight. And I'm sure a congratulatory little love tap here from the 5, letting him know he did a phenomenal job. Kept his cool the entire race. After all the pressure that the 5 and the 51 were putting on him after pit stops. And he's able to hold on to it and drive a flawless race. Leads all 28 laps here tonight. So another 3 miles to get back around here tonight, to get to that front straightaway and find victory lane for the number 8. 51 of Morgan Cook bringing it home in the 3rd position. Kyle Stewart 4th. Garrett Helmlinger in the top 5. But yeah, victory celebration begins now here for Langton as he starts to burn it up. Post-race interviews with your top 3. We're going to take a quick commercial break here as we round them up on pit road. You're watching SCT Truck Series, the John and Deb 100 here at COTA, live on VSPEED. We'll be back right after this.
And here comes Milo, big run out of 4. He's going to be there.
Tristan Martin's there. Cannot count out to 37.
Oh!
No, gets burned!
Cabot, where did he come from? Here comes
Slack.
Slack.
A punch from the 33.
It's a drag race.
The Magic Man wins it Auto Club.
And here comes Milo, big run out of 4. He's going to be there.
Tristan Martin's there. Cannot count out to 37.
Oh!
No, gets burned!
Cabot, where did he come from? Here comes
Swag.
Zwack.
A punch from the 33.
It's a drag race.
The Magic Man wins it Auto Club.
Back here live, the John and Deb 100 at the Circuit of the Americas, and it was an interesting race to say the least. These guys put on a clinic, and I'm with all of the top 6 here in the group chat. Orange Speed just put on a great show here tonight. You guys dominated this race, and even with the mistakes made, able to get back into the top 6. They have your 3rd place finisher down here on pit road. That is the number 51 of Morgan Cook. Morgan, you ran out of fuel. It looked like you pushed it to the absolute limit there, but you're able to come home in 3rd place.
Yeah, ran out of fuel crossing the finish line on the last lap. Did the short pit on Ross and Sean to try and gain track position, which I did. A couple slowdown penalties took me out of the race for the win, but top three will work for sure.
Yeah, we wondered what happened to you. We weren't exactly sure. It didn't look like you really overdrove any corners or came out loose and lost ground. So that makes sense that it was a slowdown penalty that drew you back. But you got up there with that short pit. You were in a couple tenths, and you started to put pressure on Ross Phillips and Sean Langton. But it looked like the 8 of Langton was just ice in his veins tonight.
It usually is, right? Yeah, he's a hard guy to pass, and he's really good at these road courses. I think Ross is surprised as well that we were even in the same zip code as Sean was tonight. He ran a heck of a race out there, and yeah, deserved the win.
Yes. Speaking of zip codes, this place seems to have 3 of them. 2.5 minutes to get around this place almost, and
5 area codes.
Yeah, it's just a ridiculous size. To put it in perspective, we had drivers that were a lap down, getting past 2.5 minutes. It just to me, to see that big of a gap, I couldn't wrap my head around it. We tried to zoom out and show everyone how big this place is, but it really is. It's the Nuremberg of America.
That's 10 laps at Bristol, just to put that in perspective.
Yeah, massive track.
That's huge.
So 3.5 miles and learning all these corners. You guys did it better than everybody else here tonight. And the advantage, I know that we're in here with the group chat, so I'd like to get everybody's perspective outside of, race winner Sean Langton obviously liked this place, so I think I'm going to get a bias, but you guys seem to like it as well. How was it driving out there tonight? Not all at once.
Well, when I was facing the right way, it was awesome. I got turned around a couple times, and that's usually not the way you want to be facing.
Yeah, it's Justin Ritchie, and we saw that happen to you, Justin. You fell out of the top 6. I think you went back to about 8th position, and I'll just come out and say it. It looked like a little bit of whoops, I made a mistake, and then I know there's no cautions, and then pure panic. I think you clipped the 16 before you got it straightened back out the right direction, but without full course cautions, you almost have to approach it that way.
Yeah. Super sorry for him. I didn't really get a good view of what happened. I just know I was in first gear, and I kind of got a little loose, and anybody I made contact with, including Garrett, did not mean to. Just a pure lapse in judgment on my part, but glad I could recover and make this a good team result.
Actually, I had to unhook the Hans device at one point, I think, to get facing the right direction. But you come back here in 6th position. Congratulations, Justin. And Morgan, congratulations on the top 3 here tonight. I know you weren't predicting it, but you did a phenomenal job to go up there and flirt with the lead.
Appreciate that.
So, Morgan, you got anybody you'd like to shout out there for that 3rd place finish?
You bet I do. I got to thank VSPEED for one, awesome broadcast, and the best looking truck on the racetrack, the 51 machine. Kyle, Justin, Sean, Ross, Garrett, and Ryan from Orange Speed obviously put on a clinic today. Top 6, qualified in the top 6, finished 1 through 6. That's a really impressive day for any team. The other VSRL admins, Thad and Brian, there was no race control tonight, but I think the race went pretty well. So, but thanks for Adam for always being there for us, and Garrett for race control when required. VRX has been hosting some daily races for this track this past week, and that was really helpful. I think we all took great use of that to put ourselves 1 through 6. Baltic Island Vacations at balticislandvacations.com, Thad's company, my company Southeast Tutoring, setutoring.ca, Orange Speed Vantage, and all of the drivers and fans for being here, especially John and Deb Langton.
He rehearsed that in front of the mirror. I guarantee it, guys.
I have a
Guarantee
spreadsheet actually in front of me.
That's well done. It's well done. See,
Yeah,
I
if he didn't finish
have a
top 3
script.
tonight.
Had this prep for 3 weeks.
He was predicting it. So moving on to our second place finisher here tonight. You guys all hanging out on pit road together, and I saw the group photo. That's a very nice touch. Unfortunately, Morgan not able to get in there since you.
He'll be photoshopped later into it.
We'll get him in there. Ross Phillips, second place finisher here tonight, and you chased Sean Langton for the eternity of this race, but you were all over the back bumper, especially after pit stops. You made him honest. If he made a mistake, you were going to be right there.
Yeah, absolutely. From the start of the race, I mean, we pretty much give each other room, and I kept telling him. I think he knew I was there, but he was trying to go for his 0Xs there for a little bit and burning his tires up a little bit. And I mean, I was there. I told him right before pit stops I was going to turn up the heat a little bit, and he saw it. But we were going to run in line and try to click off some laps and just try to extend the lead between both of us. And we got there, and then lap cars just kind of started playing effect. And after pit stops, you saw where I was.
Yeah, I mean, the spread on the field for you guys to be that close for the entirety of this race, and even having Morgan up there real close to you, it just showed that you guys were in the same caliber, just passing here. It seemed like every time you got a run, there was an opposite direction corner that just ruined it.
Yeah, absolutely. I was telling Sean partly through that race there, I mean, I was easily half a second to almost a second faster than him through the S's. But the rest of the track, he was just leaving me. I had a lot of times there I could have passed him, but I just played it safe with him because I didn't want to take out a teammate. And something happened, dealing with a lot of lap trucks. There towards the end, he got out a pretty good lead, and I had a hard time catching him. I had an unfortunate situation. Cat jumped on the keyboard and killed the ignition. Truck just died, didn't know what happened. Yeah, from there it was just all she wrote.
No offense, but that's reason 252 not to have a cat. They do things like that. They just whatever you're doing, they want to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's called turn off the keyboard next time, so cat can't.
But yeah, so I mean, overcoming all the obstacles as if it wasn't hard enough to do 3.5 miles at this place, let alone do it 28 times. You come home second. Ross, do you have anybody you'd like to shout out for the stellar start to this season?
Yeah. First off is VSPEED, obviously, you with putting on the broadcast, man. You guys do a phenomenal job. Orange Speed is just a whole as a team. I mean, great group of guys, and we all work really well with each other. So, beginning of the week, or I should say middle of last week to the beginning of this week, I didn't think I was going to have a chance like I did last year. And something just clicked, and we became fast. So, appreciate everybody along the way with it. And that's it. Thanks everybody for coming out, and most of the guys for staying out of the way.
Oh yeah, I mean, the phenomenal job. A lot of the cars that maybe a little off pace here tonight, but I didn't see any interference here for the most part with lap traffic or anything like that. So kudos to those guys as well. But congratulations on second place, and we look forward to next week. We're going to go back to more of what we're used to with the 1.5 miles in Atlanta.
Yeah, thank God.
And finally, that brings us down to Victory Lane. That's the number 8 of Sean Langton. And you better win this race if you're sponsored by the family that put this thing on here tonight. Sean, you get it done. You lead all the laps, and you put down, I guess, a record time around this place for VSRL because we haven't really seen us here before. So you set the bar, and you've dominated. How does it feel, man?
Hey man, thank you. It feels great. Yeah, no pressure with the name of the sponsor, the family
None?
sponsoring, but not at all, not at all. Yeah, I had a great race with my teammates. I mean, Ross, Morgan, they were right there. All of Orange Speed. I mean, we couldn't have asked for a better race. And I mean, Ross, I think he had me at a certain point. I buzzed my tires a few times, and I think just because we were teammates, he showed me a little more respect. And I think he could have passed me a few times, but I think he was waiting for the second stint after we got tires and fuel. But yeah, we had a blast out there. I love this track. Thanks to my parents for sponsoring it.
So it looked like you had it pretty figured out, but what was the trick? It seemed like cutting certain corners, you could do that, get away with it, and not get a penalty. Was that just kind of like the little secrets to getting around this track?
Yeah, there was a few where you could get off tracks, and it wouldn't, like some of the rumble strips and curbs wouldn't upset the truck too much. And there was just spots where I knew I had to be conservative, where the truck would get loose and I'd heat the tires up. And there's spots where I knew I could push. Me and Ross kind of had like an accordion effect. Like I'd be good at one spot, he'd be good at the other, and if I just tried to keep that gap.
Just maintain. I mean, you started to lengthen it out there in the last 7 or 8 laps, and we said it in the broadcast, unless he makes a huge mistake, it's looking like you're going to wrap this thing up, and you were calm and collected throughout the entirety of it. Sean, first win of the season. We're in race number 4. You're putting yourself up there in the winner's column with 2 other drivers this season. How does it feel, man?
Feels pretty good. That's win number 2 though, but I got Daytona, remember?
Oh, you did. I forgot.
I was
forgot
good,
about
good.
Daytona.
Who's counting?
Who's counting? I mean, the point system. Hopefully
Yeah,
us
yeah.
when we do these stats, and we'll get those points updated for you guys. But
No.
congrats on the 2-time win. So there, first 2-time winner. You know, the statistics here, I'm glad you're on top of them because they're all starting to blend together for me. I'm sorry about that.
No worries, man. You do a great job up there in the booth.
I appreciate it, man. Hey, anybody you'd like to shout out for tonight's victory?
Just want to thank Bald Head Island Vacations. Hit up Sad. He'll hook you up. He's the man. Orange Speed, of course. I mean, I'm just thankful to, represent this team week in and week out. It's a great thing we got going. You can see today, I mean, 1 through 6 on the qualifying grid, 1 through 6 on the race. VSRL, Southeast Tutoring. I want to thank my buddy Charlie for putting this truck together, 603designs.com. If you need a paint, go. I like simple paint, so he keeps mine simple, but he could do anything you guys want, any car. Hit up 603designs.com and tell Charlie I sent you.
Well, there you have it. Race winner, Sean Langton, and everybody here at Orange Speed. I appreciate you letting me come down here. And I especially want to thank Morgan Cook for pushing the start of this race back a little bit. We had a scheduling conflict, and it was my own mistake. So I want to say thank you as sincerely as possible. It won't be a problem again. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, don't let it happen again.
Yeah. No
Thanks.
doubt. But outside of that, thank you for watching tonight's broadcast. If you guys did enjoy it, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You'll never miss a single race here live on VSPEED when we bring you flag-to-flag coverage next week at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Outside of that, I'm going to leave this channel, and you guys can get back to the usual banner about how much you get along, right? How great that was. But appreciate your time.
Thank you. See you next week.
Thanks, man.
So then for everybody here, we're going to bring up your final results and show you from nose to tail how this race progressed. You had Sean Langton, Ross Phillips, Morgan Cook, Kyle Stewart, Garrett Helmlinger, and Justin Ritchie, all of Orange Speed in the top 6. Nick Gardner, the first car not in that group, finishing highest in 7th. 8th spot is going to belong to Dakota Floyd. Todd Cleveland bringing home in 9th, and Nicholas Pressey is going to round out your top 10. Ryan Hennings brings it home 11th with Richard Holland in 12th, and then every car from this position down is a lap down or more. Riley Laverne, in 13th. Rick Fagone 14th. Kai Shepard 15th. Britt McKee, 16th position. 17th, Dylan Disbro. 18th, Jacob Daniels. Mark Math, 19th. And Cole Jarrett rounding out the top 20. 21st is going to be Kobe Collins with Trenton Collins right behind him. And 22nd, 23rd, Thad Miller, Johnson New, 1 lap down. 24th position, Randy Saleh, 2 laps down in 25th. Teresa Spiker, 4 laps down, sticking it out in that 70 truck. She's going to bring it home. 26th position, Benjamin Richards, 27th. Then Jimmy Socks, 5 laps down in 28th position. Frank Zingen with a few off tracks very early in this race. It's going to be 10 laps down in 29th. And then in your top 30, Shane Gunter, 12 laps down in the number 22. Rounding out that field here tonight, John Buell with a very tough race. He's going to finish in 32nd. We have the 818 of Stephen Aguirre in 18 laps down. I'm not exactly sure. Aguirre was in that mix there of some guys that were in my timing and scoring that were blinking. So final race results, Stephen might be 33rd, he might be 31st. I'm not entirely sure. iRacing kind of getting wonky there with some of the stats, but Buell, Mullins, and Aguirre all finishing here in the tail end of the field. And unfortunately, we won't have those exact results until points get updated. But outside of that, I want to thank everybody here tonight that watched this race. We're going back to a 1.5 mile track next week, and I know I have the Texas graphic up here, but it just makes me feel better to put an oval up on the screen. To everybody that was here tonight, I want to thank you for your time. We're going to put it back up there on the screen. It was the John and Deb 100 here tonight, live on VSPEED. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, please do so you never miss a single race as we go live at 9 p.m. Eastern Time next week in Atlanta Motor Speedway. For everybody at VSPEED, Adam Baker, Eddie Smith, Alec Martinez, Connor Horn, and everybody in between that helps make these shows possible, this is Bradley Cooper signing off for the night. Thank you, and have a great rest of your week.
And here comes Milo, big run out of 4. He's going to be there.
Tristan Martin's there. Cannot count out to 37.
Oh!
No, gets burned!
Cabot, where did he come from?
Here
Here comes Zwack.
A punch from the 33.
It's a drag race.